a patent application fee as a rebate, getting your patent application fast-tracked because of being a startup. Then you have a lot of self-certifications under labor law and environmental law. Under Companies Act also, one of the major important instrument, convertible note. You can raise money through convertible note, yet it is not a deposit. It comes under exempted deposit. So these are all the benefits given to the startups. There is fund of fund, about 10,000 crore rupees is allocated for funding startups as per the government policies. Apart from all this, there are various government schemes like Pradhan Mantri Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Seed Fund Yojana, iMade are some of the schemes under the government, both at national and state level, to support startup. Everything is available in Startup India scheme. Also, certain professionals like CA, CSE, MA, lawyers will be able to help you gain better knowledge through it. Now, the last one is how to get yourself registered as a startup. The process is very simple. And the process is very simple. You can see in my slide, we have gone to the 4th slide where the process would have been shown. Everything is online and transparent. You get yourself signed up in the Startup India profile in the page. There will be a requirement to submit the certificate of incorporation and a project report seeking how are you innovative, how are you inventive, what is your scalability, etc. to be a part of your project report. You present the project report. Once the DPIIT is satisfied with the report, they will either approve it or reject it with reasons. So the process is very simple. Now coming back to a very important point that we have as a professional faced is Udayam registration sufficient to be a startup? No. The answer is no. Udayam registration and startup registration are totally different registrations. One will not complement each other. Yes, a MSME can be a startup subject to fulfillment of the conditions that we discussed earlier. So to be different from your traditional business, please bring out a sense of innovation, invention in your startup and achieve and understand what is your scalability and understand how you can create wealth and employment at a very small span of time. So this is all about startup. I hope you have a wonderful session ahead. This is the basics based on which our experts will be talking in further. I hope you have great knowledge being gained from this session at the end of it. Thank you for your patient hearing. On to the experts.
Thank you, ma'am. We now have Ramki sir to share his inputs on the topic Startup Fundraising. Ramki sir, I'll read the profile.
Oh, sure. Okay, go ahead.
Ramki sir is a veteran Indian investment banker with more than 3 decades of experience across the entire spectrum of corporate finance and investment banking. He has advised leading business groups, entrepreneurs and corporates in raising capital from Indian and overseas markets and from private equity investors. He has led, advised on and consummated a significant number of M&A transactions both domestic and across border. Over his long investment banking career, he has built strong and deep-rooted relationships with leading industry and also with the corporate finance and capital market ecosystem in the country. As part of the founding leadership at Spark Capital, Ramki sir has actively led and contributed to the growth and transformation of Spark Capital from an advisory boutique to a leading mid-market full-service investment bank. Previous to Spark Capital, Ramki sir headed ICICI Securities investment banking business for Southern India, before which he had stints at Arthur Andersen, in Global Financial Trust and Deloitte. Among his other commitments, Ramki sir presently serves on the executive committee of the Chennai Angels. He is also a charter member of TIE Chennai and a founding fellow of the Chennai International Center. He is on the governing council of Madras Chamber and has been a member of the managing committee of the Madras Management Association. He regularly serves on committees and working groups of CII Southern Region. He is a mechanical engineer with a postgraduate degree in management. We welcome you, sir, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. That was quite a long one. Friends on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you. Before I get on with what I intend to speak, how many of you here are entrepreneurs? I see about maybe 8 or 10 hands going up. Okay. Fair enough. I have been asked to speak on capital raising for startups. So that's the subject that has been given. And I'd like to break it up into three parts so that you get a slightly broader perspective of what I intend to tell you. First is the broader India opportunity. Why are we talking about startups today? And why is there so much of frenzy and so much of noise around startups? And where does India as a country and its economic progress fit into this whole narrative or into this whole description? That's the first part. The second is about what should a startup look at doing in order to kind of present itself for capital raising. Because there is so much of noise, there is so much that you read in the newspapers and the social media, etc., that people have raised so much of money. And then on the other hand, there are so many people who feel so disappointed that they are not able to raise money, right? There is a big gap between the people who raise money and the people who want to raise money but are not able to raise money. And the gap is not going to be bridged so easily. So why is there a gap? What is it that differentiates the people who are able to raise money? And what can the people who are still struggling to raise money be able to do in order to raise money? So that's the second part. And perhaps the third part is about, the whole concept of capital availability in the country today. And also some guidance on what you should not be doing. One is what you should be doing, and the other is what you should perhaps not be doing. So I'll try and keep it for about half an hour, which is my slot. So it's about 3:30, so we'll try and wrap up by about 4 o'clock, right? Fair enough. So the India opportunity, I think we can't be living in better times, right? We are clearly on track to become the third largest economy. So at a macro level, given from $3.7 trillion, even if we grow at a nominal growth rate of about 10%, we are going to be putting $370 billion every year, right, in order to keep pace, right? That's 10% of 3.7. $370 billion of incremental output on an annual basis is a humongous amount of money and a humongous amount of value addition that is happening at the broader economy. So we are living in times where we have come to a certain scale and we are building on that scale, right? The second point is we are living in a time and age where there are a lot of external and internal factors which are working to our significant advantage. So what are those external factors, right? We are moving from being a bipolar world to being a, multipolar world. There is a behemoth in China which was growing from the 1970s or the early 80s, which is facing significant amount of tailwinds because of a variety of reasons, right? Some of them internal reasons, some of them political reasons, some of them external factors. So that is going to present an advantage for us as an emerging or a next large economy, where a lot of global capital flows and global business requirements are going to come our way. So there is an external factor which is kind of, driving it. On the internal side, we are perhaps the only country which is sitting with a significant demographic advantage, right? We have 50% of the population below 28 years of age. The median age is about 28 for the country. We have 65% of the population below 35 years of age, right? Which means we also have about 10-12% of the population which is about 60 years of age. So, when I talk to a person who is setting up a kindergarten school, or whether I talk to a person who is setting up an old age home, I hear both of them talk with equal amount of enthusiasm, right? I really don't know how many countries or how many, geographies will present that kind of an opportunity, right? So you have the young people who need to be educated, who need to kind of grow. You have a consuming class, which is between, let's say, 20-25 years of age to about 50 years of age, who are earning and who are consuming. And at $2,700 per capita, our per capita income is only going to increase, right? So the amount of money that people will have to consume is going to increase. So there are products and services that you can offer to the consuming class. And you also have the geriatric population whose needs have to be met. So I think any which way you slice and dice the demography, you are presented with a domestic opportunity
I'm not even talking of exports. I'm not even talking of going and serving the world. Just to serve this country, I think there is a tremendous opportunity, right? So that's a significant internal factor. The next internal factor is the digital backbone that we have created, right? No other country today, and I think we can say that with reasonable amount of pride and responsibility, has this amount of digital framework in place that enables monetary transactions, that enables, for people to kind of identify themselves, to present themselves, to seamlessly integrate into the mainstream, and the connectivity that is there, that even a normal, a person sitting somewhere in deep distant Rajasthan producing some handicraft product can actually come on to the mainstream and offer his or her product for the consumption in the entire country, right? The ONDC framework which is there is enabling every small artisan or every small entrepreneur to be able to offer his or her product to a larger, marketplace, which is the pan-India marketplace. Historically, we didn't have that. If you were an artisan sitting in some corner, your market was physically restricted because you could only cater to that geography, right? You may be a brilliant artist, but you could not go out and put your products out for consumption. But today, with the government-facilitated payment mechanisms, with government-facilitated marketplaces like the ONDC, your ability to go out and reach a large market in the country has opened out, right? So we are actually sitting on a bit of a gold mine today, and that probably is going to not last forever. Maybe it will last for about 10-15 years before the cycle turns and, some other country kind of catches up. Or we will start aging in the natural course and we may not have all these advantages with this degree of intensity and manifestation continuing to last forever. So we are on the threshold of about 10-15 years of significant opportunity for people in their 20s, early 20s kind of age group, for them to capitalize over a period of time. So it will be not out of place to say that this probably is the best period in the post-independence era for a country like us. And it is for entrepreneurs to kind of create businesses and business models to cater to the opportunity that is there. What can go wrong? I think our complacency and our overconfidence can trip us. And I see an increasing amount of that, particularly among the young population. Primarily because a lot of youngsters today are born into reasonable amount of privilege, right? I come from a generation where we were not born into privilege. We had to work hard to kind of earn our livelihood. So we call ourselves the sandwich generation, right? So we had to serve because the earlier generation was probably first time to work. They didn't have enough amount of savings. So all that they could give us was education, and you had to kind of put that education to use and fend for yourself and also take care of the parents and the earlier generation. Now, you in the process worked hard and created wealth, and thanks to the external market conditions and so on, the wealth has multiplied, right? The latest Forbes list that is out of billionaires puts 200 Indian billionaires in the billionaire list, right? And the collective wealth of these 200 people is estimated to be close to $1 trillion, right? So that's the amount of wealth that has been created. And an average, the per capita income has increased. We do have inequality in income, but on a broader sense, I think wealth has got created between, let's say, 1950s and the 1970s and, the 2000s and 2020. So the collateral or the not so desirable outcome of that is a sense of complacency, a sense of entitlement, a sense of lethargy which is setting in the, into the behavioral pattern of a lot of the younger generation, and that can potentially trip us, right? When I talk to very senior industrialists in this state who run engineering companies, they are saying that they are not able to get engineers to work on the shop floor because the engineer comes with a certain sense of privilege, right? He believes he is qualified, but he is not skilled enough to be able to do the job, but he is not taking on the job on the shop floor, right? So I think there is a sense of this complacency setting in, and that can potentially be very dangerous. And I don't think if we don't do anything stupid on the geopolitical front, we will have a runway which will kind of, last the course for us for the next decade. So personally, as a banker and as a person in the financial markets, I am extremely optimistic. That is reflected in the optimism of the markets. The markets have delivered phenomenal returns. I think it will continue to deliver significant returns over the next decade or so. So now what do you do as a startup, right? There are a bunch of things that you should certainly focus on, right? First and foremost is any idea that you think of or any product that you think of should have a large market at the outset, right? We people slash it as the total addressable market. Then you slice it further and see what is my specific addressable market. And then you have my obtainable market, right? You should ensure that across TAM, SAM, and SOM, as we call it, your market is large enough for you to be able to offer that product or the service, and it should be an unfulfilled need or an unfulfilled requirement for the larger market. So the first and the most critical thing is a large marketplace. And you need to validate that there is indeed a large market before you set out to do something. The second is making sure that you have thought through your business model, right? Where is my revenue going to come from, right? And unless you think through that in significant amount of detail, and you are able to work out as to who is going to be your customer and who is going to pay you for what you are doing, right? You cannot aspire to build a business out of capital, right? You can only build a business out of revenue and profits, and you should have a mechanism or a business model that kind of gives you that revenue and that profitability over a period of time, right? How will you get revenue and profits over a period of time? Only when you have paying customers and only when you have positive unit economics. When you sell a product and you are making money out of the product, only then with scale you will be able to make money at the composite corporate level, right? You should always make sure that you are making money at a unit product level or a unit service level. Because if you don't make money at a unit product or service level, you will never ever be able to make money at the corporate level, right? Initially, you will have to make money at the unit level. You may have overheads. You may not be able to make money at the corporate level. But progressively with scale, the overheads will get amortized over a larger base of revenue. And as that overhead gets amortized over a larger base of revenue, you will start making money at the corporate level. So I think cash flows in a business is the only relevant metric. Every other metric, as they famously say, sales is vanity, profit is probably a delusion, cash flow is the only reality, right? And unless you are, steadfastly focused on having positive cash flows, the business may not be sustainable, right? So I think it's imperative for you to look at a product or a service that has a large market opportunity. Second is there should be a revenue model which gives you revenue from a paying customer. Third, you should have positive unit economics, right? These are extremely critical. In addition to that, because every startup suffers from an idea risk, a market risk, an execution risk, your idea should be relatively resilient that you can pivot it in case of any challenges that you face. So you should not be very rigidly wedded to the idea. You should be open-minded to say that, look, if the idea is not working properly, I will kind of flip it around and I will be able to pivot it to something else. If you see a large number of startups in the marketplace, they start trying to do something. Then over a period of time, they realize that, look, it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to do that. And they start tweaking their business model, or what they call in the startup language is they start pivoting the startup to be able to do something else. So I think you should have the open-mindedness and the business model resilience to be able to pivot the startup if it is required, right? The next is, it's extremely critical that you focus on execution, right? Everybody has an idea. I mean, sitting in this room, all of us have brilliant ideas that this opportunity is there, that opportunity is there, this can be done, that can be done. There's no dearth of ideas. The ultimate success of any startup is the rigor of execution. And execution is a boring, tiring, mentally straining activity but in boredom is where value is, right? Most businesses that create enormous value are very, very simple, straightforward, boring businesses. There is nothing esoteric about those businesses. It's just that people who do those businesses do it perfectly over and over again with increasing efficiency with every step and make sure that enormous value is getting created. You know, banks are such boring businesses, right? Lending is such a boring business. What do? I mean, every day you have to lend and you have to keep collecting money. It's so painful and boring. But look at the amount of value that gets created. So don't get enamored or don't get excited about the kick of the adrenaline in a business. I think, yes, that is the entrepreneurial energy that you're seeking. But ultimately, when rubber hits the road, execution is the key, and execution is what is going to take you the distance, right? And don't think success is going to come to you overnight, right? It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You cannot expect any entrepreneurial venture. There could be corner case entrepreneurial ventures, there could be that one-off entrepreneurial ventures which has succeeded overnight. But enduring businesses, enduring, sustainable, value-creating businesses are created over an extended period of time. They are not created overnight, right? Anything that gets created overnight will also probably face fatality, in equal amount of time, right? So I think be ready mentally for a long haul. Unless you are mentally ready for a long haul and you have the mental resilience to be able to run that marathon, it's not just about physical endurance, right? It is about mental strength. I was recently listening to Mr. N. Chandrasekhar, the chairman of Tata Sons, and he's a marathoner. He's a physical marathoner, right? Forget the businesses that he manages. So he was talking about training the muscle for being able to run marathon. He was talking in that context about the physical marathon, the real marathon. But I think he was talking about training the muscle physically and training the muscle at a cerebral level to be able to endure that. And he said that his marathoning experience has given him so much strength and so much learning to be able to manage such a large business conglomerate. So I think whether it is a large business conglomerate or whether it is a startup that you are managing, I think the mental strength and the endurance capability to last that distance is extremely critical. So it is not for everybody. Unlike the popular noise that is being made today that, look, everybody should become a startup, everybody should become an entrepreneur. I may have an unpopular view on it, but I will stick to my unpopular view. I have this running battle with my friend Shivaraja Ramanathan, who runs the Tamil Nadu startup mission, and I keep telling him every time I meet him, please don't evangelize entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It is a lonely game. You should have the mental strength to be able to run that distance and create that business. And please introspect on your capability several times before you take the plunge. Because I'm making this statement in the context of what I said earlier, because we are sitting in a golden period of opportunity. And you should not be in a situation where you have missed the bus during that golden period. Because after that, with passage of time, as has happened with every economy, the economy will start flattening out, right? I mean, however patriotic we may be about the country, we have to be realistic, right? Yes, we are sitting on a period of opportunity. That opportunity will die out in course of time. And for youngsters who are here to kind of create a life for themselves, I think you need to be very, very calibrated about, can I do this or can I not do this? Am I better off doing something else, right? So it's a tough journey. You have to think hard and you have to create a business which is sustainable. Please don't believe that capital will be available, right? I mean, I came to speak about capital being available, and you must be wondering, what is this guy saying? Why is he saying that capital will not be available? But the base case null hypothesis with which you should get in is capital is not going to be available. Getting capital for a startup is not an entrepreneur's birthright, right? It's not enshrined in the constitution that every guy who starts up should be provided capital, right? So the providers of capital have their own requirements, and they are going to evaluate your startup or your business based on the parameters that they have for themselves. So there is a good chance that you will not be able to raise capital, right? Now, if you are not able to raise capital and you still want to be entrepreneurial, you can still be entrepreneurial. There is nothing wrong. It's not sacrosanct that every entrepreneur or every startup should raise capital. You can build businesses of scale. Nikhil Kamath, the founder of Zerodha, who figures in the billionaires list, hasn't taken a single rupee of external capital. He has probably disrupted the broking industry to such an extent, I mean, beating and pipping all the, incumbent veterans to the post, just out of the sheer, intellect and capability and execution rigor with which they have approached the business, right? So it is not necessary for you to raise external capital. You can build businesses without raising a single rupee of external capital and build businesses of scale, right? Doctor and I have a friend in Erode who has built a brilliant business without raising a single rupee of external capital, right? He has built a business of 2,000 crores in the consumer industry, right? Without 1 rupee of external capital. So it's not impossible to build businesses of meaningful scale without external capital. Just operate on the assumption that capital is not going to be readily available. Because capital is a very scarce commodity. The people who provide capital have their own parameters in terms of what will tick the box and what will not tick the box, right? And also, please get it into your mind very clearly that just because you have got the first round of capital, you are not going to get the subsequent rounds of capital, right? Statistics tells us that only 2%, and I repeat 2%, of startups that raise seed capital end up raising what we call as a Series D capital, right? You have seed, then pre-seed, you have pre-seed, seed, pre-series A, Series B, and so on. So only 2% of the startups which raise capital at a seed level end up raising Series D. And that is statistics based on, in India, looking at companies that raise money between 2015 and 2022 or something like that, right? So it's publicly available data. So, A, you may not be able to get capital. B, even if you get that initial dose of capital, you may not be able to sustain the capital flow into your business. And because you may not get capital or you may not be able to sustain the capital flowing into your business, it is imperative that the business should stand on its own legs. And that is exactly why I said what I said earlier, right? It should have an economic business model which is sustainable on its own merit over a period of time, right? And also understand that the mortality of startups is very, very high. 70% of the startups don't see their 10th anniversary. So the mortality is extremely high. So if you are not getting it right and if you are having some challenges and roadblocks along the way, just make sure that you are able to either pivot the startup or there is nothing wrong in abandoning it and moving on to a professional career, right? Because today, thankfully, the society has become a lot more open-minded and a lot more Catholic about accepting failures, right? We are not living in the 60s and the 70s where failure was taboo, right? Today, I think even if you say that, even when we recruit people, if a guy has had an entrepreneurial stint and he comes back and says, look, I tried something but I couldn't succeed, you actually look at him in a positive way because he has attempted something, as opposed to somebody who has probably not attempted and who has not seen. And you find the mental resilience and strength of a person who has actually attempted, struggled, and perhaps not succeeded. Maybe things were out of his control, right? You actually give him the benefit of doubt. So make sure that you try, but all that I'm saying is make sure that you are perceptive enough to look at smell the tea leaves early enough, right? And take corrective action either to pivot the business model, if you can pivot the business model, or kind of change course and get back to work. I mean, you probably, after a few years, you may be a better entrepreneur than what you were when you started off the first time, right? So having said all of this, I think startups don't fail today for want of capital, right? I may appear to be contradicting myself, but I'm not contradicting myself. I'm speaking with full sense of balance in my head and responsibility, right? So in today's time and age, startups do not fail for want of capital. Startups may fail because the entrepreneur has got tired. Startups may fail because technology has shifted under his feet, right? Startups may fail because the regulatory framework in the country has changed. Startups may fail because the fundamental business model is just not playing out, right? But if you have an energetic entrepreneur who's committed to run the course, who's resilient enough to adapt technology as it is changing, who is playing to the rules of the game that the country has laid out, you are not going to fail for want of capital. You may choose not to take capital. That's a different question. That's your call. But the amount of capital that is available is significant enough. And we have friends like Gopi who have sold businesses and who are happy to bankroll startups, right? And there are enough number of such people who are successful entrepreneurs who are looking to kind of promote entrepreneurship because their wealth has been created out of entrepreneurship. They know the struggles of and the thrill of success of entrepreneurship. So capital is, humongous amount of capital is available, right? Just to give you a data point, outside of the Bansals, who are the founders of Flipkart, I'm saying outside of Bansals, right? Only for the Flipkart employees, when Walmart came and acquired Flipkart, the amount of ESOPs that got monetized was $800 million, right? And all of them have been products of a startup, right? Their wealth got created because of startup. Otherwise, there would have been some employees somewhere continuing with their life. So more often than not, people who create wealth in that manner also kind of repurpose that wealth for the purposes of entrepreneurship. So capital is available. You have angels, you have angel networks. They mentioned about my association with the Chennai Angels. We have a vibrant ecosystem. We have about 200 people at the Chennai Angels, all reasonably accomplished entrepreneurs or professionals, right? So there is significant amount of money available. The amount of wealth or money multiplication opportunity in other parts of the world is not as high as in India, because India is growing. If the country grows at 15%, you can potentially compound your wealth at anywhere between 15 to 20% without taking too much amount of risk. So there is significant amount of wealth creation opportunity. So capital is available. Now the question is whether your business will attract capital or not is a question that you have to ask yourself. And there you have to be very clear and ruthless in your assessment of how your business is stacking up, right? And some of them, and there is nothing wrong. It's not a judgment on your entrepreneurial capability if you don't raise money. I mean, you should not look at it that way, right? You can still build meaningful businesses of scale and create value for yourself, provide employment, create a product or a service that the market needs, and build scale. It is not that you need to raise capital. So don't get too disappointed if capital is not flowing, as long as you are very convinced of your idea and you are seeing that the idea is actually yielding results. So I will probably pause here. I have 5 more minutes to go, so I thought I am happy to take any questions. I can go on. I can talk till the cows come home, but yeah, I think it's more appropriate that I at least stop. Any questions? Nazara, you must have read the article yesterday. Yeah, correct. Correct, absolutely. Because they realized when they started, they were a pure gaming company. But then they realized that the economic model of esports is far more robust than probably the economic model of being a gaming company. And Nazara is a very interesting case because they actually went public very quickly, right? From raising a private capital, they went and got themselves listed. And when they got themselves listed, one was not too sure whether the country will accept a gaming company in publicly listed space, right? But still, they were able to get themselves listed and kind of, so that is pivoting, right? You see the opportunity and then you kind of tweak the business model. And for that, you have to be perceptive enough to be able to change, right? Because and I think it's important to, keep the mind open. Listen to an external or a contrary point of view, right? Today morning I got a WhatsApp from a friend and client of mine, and he sent me some bhashan that I had given him 7-8 years back, and I didn't know that he had recorded. And he sent it to me today, and he said, "You told me all of this, and I just found it when I was going through my phone. I thought I should send it to you." So I heard it for 5 minutes and I knew what I was talking. So I wrote back to him saying that, look, I will continue to say the same thing to you. I mean, you have perhaps grown your business today, but it's still the same. So please be open to external points of view, right? The idea of an external point of view is perhaps not to discourage you, right? Those days of discouragement, parents telling go and you're better off working, I think those days are gone, right? We have progressed significantly as a country. If somebody is telling you that, look, you be a little more careful about something, I think they are telling you with your interest in mind, or they are telling you with the benefit of the wisdom that they have earned, or they have kind of got in their head, having seen businesses. So please be open to that, and make sure that you are building it into your business model as you keep growing. Because if you don't keep, constantly relooking your business model, then I think it will always be a challenge, right? At every step of the way, whether it's your product, whether it's the technology that you're using, whether it's a go-to-market, whether it is your co-founder, whether it is the team that you have built, at what stage should I professionalize the management. So all of these are critical decisions. And what holds good at one scale, perhaps may not hold good at another scale, right? Back in 2000, one iconic entrepreneur, and I'll stop with this story. One iconic entrepreneur, I don't want to take his name, an Indian who went to the Silicon Valley and made name for himself, was talking, and he said that, look, and he is a billionaire by that time, right? And he had gone and listed his company in NASDAQ. It was a celebrated listing in early 2000. And then the dot-com bust happened, right? The boom and the bust happened. And he said, look, I had to sack the entire team, including myself, right? And he went on to say, I had to do this because none of us were competent enough to run a business in a downturn. We were all wired and mentally capable only to run a business in a booming economy, and we were just not capable of running a business in a downturn, right? And so all of us stepped back. We put a different set of people who have actually seen downturns and who have, held on to businesses and just made sure that they sustained over a downturn. So the point I'm trying to say is, each phase of your growth, each stage of your life cycle requires a different capability. You may be a great founder but a terrible manager, right? The trick lies in recognizing your incompetence as a manager, right? And stepping aside and allowing somebody who's probably a better manager to take over from you and manage the affairs during a period when it has to be managed. So I think these are very critical as you build those businesses. And these are very critical, and any person who's talking to you to give you funding is actually going to assess whether you have it in you to be able to take these calls. He may not tell it to you explicitly, right? But he is going to, evaluate it. I'll just make one last point before I stop, Doctor. Also, when you take, and it's a very important point, and since I was just not giving a prepared speech but talking extempore, I missed some aspects. The most important point of taking external capital, apart from the fact that don't be obsessed about valuation, but work towards value creation, is you should be very clear that when you take capital, you should give him exit. Right? It is not permanent capital that is available to you. Your capital and your presence in the business is permanent. A capital provider's presence in the business is not permanent. He is coming here to give you that injection, to help you get better and reap his rewards when you are getting better, right? So any contract with an external capital provider is a contract with a built-in divorce clause, right? So the divorce will happen and has to happen in a 3-5 year period. And if it doesn't happen in the 3-5 year period, you're going to have more problems with you than what you have enjoyed by the capital that he provided. So mentally be clear that you're responsible to give him returns, not just return the capital, but give him returns. And equity, as I said, is a very, very precious commodity. So the returns that people expect out of equity is very, very high, right? It's on the risk return curve. The higher the risk, the greater the return expectation, right? And somebody is taking significant amount of risk, so naturally his return expectations will be significant. So be prepared for that return. And for you to create that return, you need to get your business model right, you need to get your governance right, you need to get your timing right, you need to get your prayers right, and make sure that God is with you. All the very best. Thank you.
Thank you for that insightful session, sir. I now request KSR sir to honor him with a memento and a hamper. Thank you so much, Ramki sir. We now have Ms. Upasana Srinivasan from Forge Innovation and Ventures to speak about incubators and accelerators. Ms. Upasana is a seasoned management professional with over 8 years of cross-functional experience in finance, HR, and operations. Leveraging this well-rounded background, she has transitioned into a people, talent, and culture space where she carries 3 years of hands-on expertise. At Forge, she is implementing a comprehensive talent acquisition strategy aimed at consistently bringing in skilled professionals with the goal of fostering rapid career advancement within the realms of startup incubation, acceleration, and investments. Additionally, she oversees recruitment, deployment, skill enhancement, and retention of professionals, ensuring alignment with the company's culture, values, and HR policies regarding compensation, rewards, recognition, and advancement. In addition to managing the CEO's schedule and priorities, she also leads internal communications, board engagement, and external stakeholder relations across corporate and government sectors. She also oversees the development and execution of the company's overall communication strategy. She has received her MBA in HR and operations from Kumaraguru College of Technology in 2022 and her bachelor's from PSG Krishnamal College in 2013. The stage is yours, ma'am.
Vanakkam, good evening everybody. It is immensely proud moment for me to be invited here. Thank you Dr. KSR and the team who've been very supportive to bring me here. It's very interesting to see corporate governance professional firm do something like this, take up an initiative to talk more about startups. And it's very, very interesting for me to be here in front of this August gathering. So I think a lot of aspects of what Ramki has already spoken is also going to be something that I will be telling you all again. I represent Forge Innovation and Ventures, a company which is an incubator and an accelerator. And here I'm going to tell you a lot more about what benefits a startup can get out of being supported by an incubator and an accelerator. But before that, there are a lot of life cycle stages and issues that a startup will face that I'm going to be addressing to you all about. Yeah. So, first thing, can anybody tell me the name of one startup? Just one, anybody. Very interesting. Somebody has seen the script. Somebody has leaked my paper. All right, right. So, why I say that, I'll come to you. ஒரு போர்ஷன் ஆஃப் த பீப்புள் இங்கே இருக்கிறீங்க இல்லையா, நீங்கள்லாம் வந்து ஒரு ஊரை விட்டு ஊர் போகும்போது ஒரு டிக்கெட் புக் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா Yeah, Nane, for that example, right? Or 2000 ticket book pananona, what would we have done? Nera pono, bus stand pono, angore agent pudikano, we would have tried to do everything to get a ticket to go, say, Tiruchi to Madurai, right? Today, what do? If you have to travel interstate, the first thing that comes across anybody's mind, be it me, be it my father, anybody, Red Bus. How did Red Bus happen, right? Red Bus literally rewrote the script. They put bus ticketing into your fingertips. Not even at a thought level, but at your fingertips, right? How did this happen to be? Where Ramki also identified this and he spoke about it, right? A very essential problem had to be found. Back in 2005, the then co-founder of Red Bus, his name was Fanindra Sama. He was actually a Hyderabad native person who was working in Bangalore in Texas Instruments. And he used to travel very frequently between Bangalore and Hyderabad. And during one such season, in 2005 to be precise, during Diwali, he had to frantically get home. It's a long weekend. Everybody wants to go home. He's in Bangalore, right? And he knows these aggregators and these agents who've been working with him. Every time he goes at the last moment, he gets a ticket. He's so used to it. So he goes on and he tries to get home to Hyderabad from Bangalore in 2005 for Diwali. What happens? Everywhere he goes, every agent, every aggregator, only shouting and screaming, sold out. Completely sold out. What would you do? No frantic amount of phone calls, no, number of, moving between actually multiple number of agents even in that last moment did not help him at all. All Sama found that time was there was no transparency. There were multiple agents. There were bus operators, but they were all working with multiple agents. And there existed simply nothing but confusion, right? Sama now was not like any other person. Sama was a techie. So a techie at heart has solutions that you and I do not easily come up with, right? So what he did, he understood that there is chaos. This chaos presents an opportunity, right? The ticket that he did not get is also a seat that the aggregator or the bus operator did not sell, right? It's a lose for me, but then it's also a lost opportunity for him. It's a loss in not gaining that revenue for him. So he was able to see this big picture and he understood that he had to put a method to this chaos. That Deepavali, what happened? There was a spark. There was this fireworks that went in, but not literally, quite literally in front of him, but in his heart. Because he didn't travel back. All the lone time that he got sitting out of Bangalore, when all of his friends had been away, gave birth to the idea of a platform. It actually initially gave birth to the idea of a software. Once the friends returned back, two other friends who also did not have any entrepreneurial background, and Sama himself did not have any entrepreneurial background. All the three of them come up with the idea of putting a platform together or putting a software together initially to solve this myriad of challenges that existed in the transportation sector itself, right? What did this do? This was not just a simple thought, that idea that actually created just a startup, right? At that point in 2005 and between 2005 and 2006, it revolutionized the industry. How did it revolutionize the industry? There was one word, again, I want to come back to from what Ramki said. Ramki used the word disruption in one of his, in the conversation. This essentially what redbus.in, even before it became the platform and the startup, also disrupted a broken system with a very simple tech-driven solution. A large part of my conversation today is going to be focused towards tech-driven solutions and technology and innovative solutions which drive to solve problems for consumers as well as industries. So please bear with me. Had he thought not to do this, right, what would you have done? You would have started, maybe some common person would have thought, let's start another bus operating facility. Let's run more buses. Let's run new routes. Let's actually add more buses would be the first thing somebody would have thought of if I didn't find a seat in the bus, right? Had he done yet another small business, what he would have lost was not to create value innovatively. What was the value that he was creating innovatively? What was innovative about this, right? Sales had to happen. For that, the seat, the ticket had to be put out. All that he did was make the inventory go online. That's it. That was a very simple solution that he came up with. Had he not done this value creation innovatively, and then the delivery of that value and the capture of value by running the platform and being able to get back, say, commission and footfall fee and all of that, scale wouldn't have happened. In the existing transportation system, a travel company will not be able to solve any of this, largely because you would have 2 crores. I assume, every Parveen travel bus and Radhimina bus is going to be around 1.5, 2 crores, right? For you to be able to ply a route back and forth, it's 4 crores, right? No bus operator is actually solving that problem. And then when he went on to sell the software also, he came to understand they were not really willing to buy a computer and put the software. But that is when the idea of the platform itself came into play. Today, had redbus.in, a tech-driven solution for addressing the problem, not happened, Redbus, which is a roaring success, right? And it is easily number 1 in India. There are a lot of players now, but not until very recently. It is selling more than 20,000 tickets per day. It operates 299,000 plus routes every day. And it's got 26 partnered road transport corporations with them, right? Redbus wouldn't have happened had it been just yet another small business. Is the slide changing? All right. So the startup, what we're talking about is simply one thing, right? It's a fundamentally high growth achieving potential company. That's what a startup is. What do you mean by high growth? High growth is there. What is high growth, right? Where a conventional company grows revenue at, say, X and be able to operate at X cost, which is basically directly proportional, a high growth entity will make profit at NX, which is an order and magnitude higher than the revenue cost, than the order of cost, which would be X. This is only possible if it is a startup, right? A phase where this a startup becomes high growth is actually a proving phase. It's a phase that you have to be very clear, right? A startup essentially doesn't operate on the model of stability. Your small businesses, normal businesses, entrepreneurs who are running businesses will always operate on resources to profit model. A resources to profit model aims at stability. A startup which is technologically driven, a technology which is translated into a usable innovation product will essentially, like Redbus, solve a very large problem or a small problem at a large scale to achieve non-linear growth, which is disruption. What is a venture? Yeah. So, what is a venture? So, if you look at my company's name, it's Forge Innovation and Ventures. And I'm talking a lot about startups. Appa venture na enna? Venture is a high growth company, right? Yeah? Yeah, got it. Yeah, this is very interesting. So a startup, as I said, is a phase. It's a temporary phase. It's a phase where you are proving the potential to be a high growth company. And once you do, you become a venture. That is what is your high growth company. How do you prove all of this, right? A venture capital, money flows when you are a venture. That is very clear from the last half an hour of conversation with Ramki, right? So if you take up the life cycle of a startup, right, it can be categorized, as he said, from pre-seed to seed. It goes into adolescence, a largely very common term, adolescence to maturity. It is in this adolescent stage where a VC finds it very, it's like the sweet spot for VCs to enter into and pour money, all right? How does a startup start from there, end to here, and also, attract capital? When startups enter into an existing market space, is it easy to do? In this case of Redbus again, they did enter into an existing market space, right? But what were they selling? Were they selling something different from what the bus operators were already selling? Were they doing something actually, not being done already? No. They were putting bums on seats. They were selling tickets and they were selling seats, right? The technology that was used helped scale and take Redbus national and global. It essentially would have gone through the stages that you would. Do you see the stages on the screen now? Yeah, do you see the stages now? Yeah, I might have to go down, right? Yeah. Is it better? Do you see the stages? Yeah. Because it's very essential that they see it and they understand it, because my conversation is going to be based on that a lot more. So for Redbus to have gone through the idea, through the solution to the product stage, let's look at up to product stage, there was one certainty, right? Redbus will, no matter what happens, address and solve the problem. It is largely because they were addressing a problem that was faced by a very, very large market. It's again something that Ramki reiterated. He said there has got to be a potential for that startup to be addressing a very large market. But the solution was not really great. It was an average solution. One very distinct factor what Redbus proved, and they proved at that point, was they were very effective and the solution, the problem was very relevant. So this point in that stage is what we call as a product market fit. That's exactly the sweet spot that I'm talking about. This product market fit has to be proven by a startup to attract VC money. But is that just the limit? Is that the end? No. A product market fit is a good step. It is a very essential step. But beyond product market fit, what most startups need and is essential for them is product-led growth. That is also there. For a technology startup, a product-led growth is very, very essential. What is product-led growth? The word clearly says growth led by startups. Growth led by the product. That is clear. But how does the product lead the growth? How does the product help you get more revenue directly? What does a conventional business do, right? Take, for example, YouTube. Ninga ellarum YouTube use pandringa, correct? At some point, for something or the other, even if you get a link from somebody, it ends up going into YouTube. Everybody uses YouTube. What YouTube offers is the experience and the ease of using the whole platform, which is basically their product. And that itself has become the main vehicle for it to acquire, to attract, and to retain users and customers. Now recently, right, and there's been a lot of instances of this even coming in movies, but recently there is something that's happening on YouTube, right? You go click anything, you go anywhere, all it says is go to YouTube Premium. The other thing is subscribe, pay, so that I will get rid of these ads for you, right? And many of them are actually doing it. Many of us actually pay just to use the product so that we can use it ad-free. This example is exactly what is product-led growth. Many of them give even freemiums. They give you premium features for quite some time to get you to taste it, understand it, and then stop it. They say pay. Actually, it works, right? So this product-led growth is a go-to-market strategy, which is very essential for a startup. Once they get in, say, angel investments and early VCs, to be able to move to the fact that Ramki was mentioning, Series A, B, and C, it's very, very essential to have captured this and to have proven this. What easily happens with having a product-led growth is that you don't spend a lot of money on customer acquisition costs. So a large part of your costs come down, right? In a conventional, normal, small business, your costs and your revenues will have to grow this way, right? The higher the cost, yeah, the higher the revenue, obviously. But then for a startup to prove the high growth concept, for it to be proven as a high growth venture, it needs to grow exponentially. This is a very, very different curve. For a technologically driven startup, there is also a very different pivot that happens, and the growth actually crosses and goes somewhere else, right? Now, what is this venture going to, how does a venture sustain? How does it work? How do you get it running, up and running, right? So an innovation, a venture basically, if you look at, is a rocket, right? You have two engines, which is the innovation engine and the growth engine. Just imagine, a venture is a rocket which is going up, and you need two very important engines. One is the innovation engine and one is the growth engine. The innovation engine will be fueled by technology, and the growth engine, Ramki, venture capital, right? So that's just a very simple way of putting it. But what technology? Any technology, or like it's got to be an innovation or an invention? What does it have to be? Technology that is going to drive innovation is very simple. It is either you have very easily affordable flow of ideas, whether you use deep tech advancements, or if a startup uses an emergent technology to substitute an already existing mature technology in that market, then there comes a technologically augmented innovation. And then growth. The growth part of it, yes, venture capital, but it also has very important two aspects. One, it is to improve your top line. The other, it is to save and reduce your bottom line, which is basically called the size, the top line, and the health, which is the bottom line of the company. Now, how do you become this venture? Startup, okay, you've understood. We go from here to there, right? Now, how do you become a venture? A startup generally is, it's prerogative for a startup to explore into unexplored areas. The idea itself for most of the startups is to do something different, right? I want to do something different. I want to solve this, but not the usual way, do it differently, right? So a startup, when it explores into unexplored areas, they always encounter a lot of unknowns. There is a lot of assumptions, right? These assumptions, yeah, they are just assumptions. But then within those assumptions, if you actually get to prove them, there lies the opportunity for that startup, right? So what kind of assumptions? When an idea is born, it is just an idea? No, you have understood there is a problem, and then you're trying to solve that problem. What all assumptions are you going to be making? A startup will make every assumption. Everything starts with an assumption, right? Starting from understanding, yeah, is this the right product? Is this demand going to be there for my product? What can be the vision? What is the technology I will be using? What kind of team will I be having? Who are going to be my core team members? Who will be, what are the present opportunities? What can I do to actually leverage them? A lot of those assumptions are going to be there. These assumptions, yeah, they're there, but always they come with one very important thing: risk. There are inherent risks when you are making these assumptions. But risk கண்டு பயந்துட்டு அப்படியே விட்டுற முடியுமா? விட்டுட்டா ஸ்டார்ட்அப்ஸ் பண்ணிட முடியுமா? அவங்க என்ன பண்றாங்களோ பண்ண முடியாது, right? So these risks will have to be mitigated. A startup or a business idea is not something that you think of and you jump into and just get it done and get money and become rich. No, that's not, and become successful. That's not how it works. There is a scientific method to how this works. Your risks will have to be mitigated by drawing those assumptions and validating by testing those assumptions. Validation, very important. One of the examples that he said, he was talking a lot about how startups, don't get to a point, they fail, they do not scale, right? Many startups also fail because they assume that they're solving the right problem. They assume that the business model is viable, and they end up operating at such high costs, aiming such high revenues and such high profits that it becomes not sustainable, right? When you mean you need to go at higher scale, at escalating such costs, and there is nobody who wants to buy it, right? That is an essential and a potential risk, and you will fail. Now, how do you test this? what kind of risks are we talking about? This is one of the risks that I spoke about. And I told you a list of assumptions that a startup makes, right? So understanding some of these risks is very crucial. And coming from an incubator and an accelerator, this part is something that's very, very, very initial, very crucial. Risks that can be for a startup that can start from, say, will the customer accept this product or solution or this technology? Starting from customer acceptance, it can be, will they be willing to buy it? If they buy it, will they be willing to pay what I demand for it? Will this product be viable? Will this product be viable to be able to be produced and then distributed, marketed? Can I make the right kind of entry into the market? What kind of entry strategies do I have to use? How will I achieve market penetration? How is there an ability for this startup to grow, to scale? Is there an essential operating model that will deliver the growth that is expected of the startup? All of these are risks. சரி இவ்வளோ ரிஸ்க் இருக்குது அப்படியால் பண்ணணுமா ரைட் இல்லை பண்ண தான் ஆகணும் பண்ணிட்டு தான் இருக்காங்க ஸோ how do they do it? What is the scientific approach? Right? All these risks and assumptions exist. They are there. But to mitigate this, you need to build what I said. You have to test your assumptions. You have to validate them, which is you have to build proof. Building proof to validate these assumptions, which means you're translating these assumptions into evidence. This is a scientific principle that has been given to you by Steve Blank, one of the fathers of modern entrepreneurship. And this is a very important evidence-based approach that is required for every startup. So startup founders will learn all of this on their own, is it? How will they come to understand how do I validate my risks? How will they understand how to mitigate these risks? So startup founders, the essential question is, can startup founders be taught with tools, techniques, and processes and methodologies to identify these assumptions and risks and to validate them? Can that be taught? Yes. Who does that? We do that. Incubators' core focus work and our everyday, day-to-day is to mentor founders and to help them go through this very critical process. So what process? What are you seeing on this screen? Yeah. So for a startup, the idea to enterprise is the whole stage that they have to cross. That is very, very critical for them to understand every one of those stages, break it down, understand what lies in front of them, as well as what they're getting into in each stage is the crucial factor, right? So an incubator, in this case, comes in, and an incubator will support in building a startup into a successful venture. So to go from an idea to enterprise. What are the key milestones that the startup will have to look at? Is what is shown to you on screen, and there is a validation for each of these assumptions that they will have to make when they move from idea to prototype. So what Phanindra Sama was doing, he was sitting there thinking about how can I solve this problem over the weekend, and then Monday came, he thought, okay, I'm doing a software. He went about doing a software, he went and actually gave those softwares to around 10 of the bus operators, and the problem was that he wasn't able to scale. Right? A prototype was built. But then the problem of scale happened because nobody was ready to pay for it. Because he said you have to buy the laptop, you have to buy the computer, right? And they were using billing machines. They were like, fine, we are happy with this. We want to just put more sales, right? We will have more people hollering around bus stands. That's more than enough for me, right? So this concept of validation that exists between the idea to prototype stage is for them to validate what is called as a value price fit. I am telling you that I'm delivering you value, but do you need that value? If you really need that value is when you will be able to actually say, fine, I'll pay for it. I need it, I'll buy it, I'll pay for it, right? That validation, that assumption testing is very important. And every startup, be it a technology, hardware startup or platform-based, product-based startup, which is technologically driven, has gone through this. So what it does is you ensure that the product in through the stage of say proof of concept to pilot to prototype, it delivers what value the customer is willing to pay for. That is the most important and the first step. The second, now you've achieved prototypes. So from prototype, you know you have got user trials done, you've tried it, tested it. The startup has to go to the next level where it becomes not a project, but it becomes a product. Right? So for moving between prototype to product is where for hardware startups this is very relevant. That's why we've put it there, and we deal with more than 200 of them which have hardware integrated software services as well as hardwares. So if you look at the second stage, the validation that has got to be in place, the assumption that the startup will have to test is the product factory fit, which is given considering that there is this time and this cost, right? Is it feasible for me to build it in multiples? Is it feasible for me to scale? And is the design going to be helping me make large-scale production possible? With hardware startups, this essentially, quintessentially is the bigger problem, right? The next is you move from product stage. Yes, you have tested it. You've done enough tests. You've proven that, yes, it's scalable. The design is good. We can scale it any number. No problem. I have productized. The next level is for you to move from the product to business. Business and enterprise looks very similar, no? You find that to be like, okay, interchangeably mostly used. But yeah, here, no. When you move from product to business, what you will have to validate is exactly what Redbus nailed. Your product market fit. Are your products, is your a problem that you're aiming to solve is actually a pertinent problem for a large population? Or is it a very small population? He spoke about TAM, right? TAM, SAM, and SOM. This is essentially what product market fit validates. You will have to establish a substantially large market for that product. And then you move on to the last stage. You know you have a large market. You know that you can achieve product-led growth at some point. You are assuming and you're validating that. The next level is business to enterprise. Business to enterprise validates the basic and the most important assumption of investment scale fit. Can I build, can I scale this business model? Is this business model viable? Is this business model going to be profitable? Is this business model scalable? These are the basic questions that's going to be validated when it comes to investment scale fit. You have to prove that there is a potential for profit, right? How do you navigate through all of this when I give you all of these lectures? It's not just stopping at lectures. There are more number of things that our incubator does, right? A successful navigation for a startup through all of this is handheld and supported by incubators and accelerators through 5 M's, which is it showing on the screen? Yeah. So incubator, accelerator, no different for us. It is managed innovation that we give for the startup. And these 5 M's are basically means, method, monitoring, market, and money. We first spoke about money, but then we are going to be here talking last about money, right? So means, when it comes to your product, from the POC to prototype, what is the most essential thing for a startup? It is technical infrastructure, technology labs, and support for product development, prototype development, product testing, and for manufacturing, to be able to at least, manufacture at few in scale. The next will be methods. Different kinds of methods actually, right? So very important thing is that you start with chaos. Most of it is a problem, they're figuring it out with a lot of assumptions. What methods that does a managed incubation service give, or an incubator or an accelerator gives, is basically we give you tools, techniques, processes, methodologies, and frameworks which are tried and tested, and we put your startup, the product, yourself, your team through all of this with rigor. Exactly the same thing, right? With rigor to be able to come out with a product which is scalable, which can go to market, and which a startup can build into a venture. This method to madness is what we are calling as the method that incubators bring, right? The next one is mentoring. இப்போ மென்டரிங் வந்து I understand that everybody, gets advisory services, consultants and methods. But what is very important for startups, and especially from Forge perspective, if you look at what we've been always doing, is tailoring and customizing the mentoring support that is required. Some startups will require a lot of support at product innovation level. They will require a lot of support at development level. Some of them will be at scale. They will be at marketing level. They will be at a go-to-market strategy level where the intervention is required. So mentoring it plays a very important role for an incubator. It is a very essential thing to be doing for the startup, for them to scale and for them to succeed. The next is market. Many startups fail because this doesn't happen, which is for them to be able to get the demand, for them to be able to generate the demand for their product, wherein incubators and accelerators will come and play, they will support, right? How do you do this? We don't just look at everything from the supply perspective saying, yeah, we have all of this, we have all of this, we have all of this. But what is the most important? Who's going to take all of this from you, right? The demand generation part is what an incubator will have to focus on for a startup and support them with, because there is a lot of market as well as customer risks that is associated in this, which the incubator will, by supporting, reduce. The last one will be money, as I said last. Government supports a lot of startups with different kinds of grants, funds, and investments. And incubators will offer financial support. For example, at Forge, if you look at from 5 lakhs to about 1 crore, there are innovation grants being given. We invest in startups. We support those startups for a really long tenure so that they are able to make what he said, right? Exit possible. It's not just that I've given you money, yeah, okay, bye, take care. That happens at home, right? But not essentially at a startup. So money being given by a startup has to be administered properly through proper validation at every level, milestones tracked at every level, and a lot of facilitation that's required for a startup. So an incubator and accelerator will use all of these resources that's present for them to bring all of this to the table for a startup. The next I have about, do I have maybe 2 more minutes? I would, yeah. Is that slide about Forge? Okay. Next. Okay. Yeah. Give me 2 minutes to talk about what Forge does, right? So Forge is, there are a lot of incubation houses, there are a lot of incubators who operate on different models. They support different kinds of startups. There are sectors and industries that they support the startups in, right? So Forge is a very different model that we operate with. Is we are a one-of-a-kind vertically integrated enterprise, and we seamlessly use, if you can look at the flywheel, which is basically the core strategy, there is 3 levers that we support. That is the talent, technology, and ventures. We bring all the 3 levers together, fuel them, and we propel every startup to success. This is a model which is called as a vertically integrated model. What we do is we ignite product innovations and cultivate tech enterprises. Right? Innovation is like, it's not just something that can happen one day. It's not like a function. It's not just something that you come about on a single day and then you work towards it. Innovation here is a strategic imperative. For us, it is an everyday habit, a fundamental value, and we have woven all of these factors, the levers as well as innovation, into this fabric where you see on the outer side, you will have industry, academia, and government. All industries in terms of small as well as large. We will support startups to go through this fabric completely. There are a lot of partners that we partner with, which will be there on the slide next, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Do you see a lot of partners? So those are some of the partners on this screen. Not yet? All right. So just want to give you a glimpse of what Forge does, right? I'll just glance through that and you can have a look at it. That's it. Done? Yeah. All right. So whether you are an entrepreneur, you are an aspiring budding entrepreneur, even if you are a venture capitalist, you are chasing the next big thing that has to happen, or if you have ideas about future technologies that you're interested in but would like to know, how do I pursue, what do I do? I think Forge is the way forward, right? We operate across Tamil Nadu in eight locations right now. One is in Chennai, Sriperumbudur, right in the heart of the industrial area in Sipcot. There is one more in Hosur. In Chennai itself, in IIT Madras Research Park, we have another center. Apart from that, our main office, which started off with 9 years back, is in Coimbatore, and we have technology labs and infrastructure which supports product development at talent conversion level, at a student level and support level at Trichy, Tirunelveli, Salem and Madurai. And if you want to reach, you can reach us at that. I think that's the last slide. Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you for that wonderful session, ma'am. I now request Raghunath Ravi sir to present the memento and the hamper to honor ma'am. Next, we have Mr. Gopi Kotishwaran to share his journey of starting a startup. Gopi sir is passionate about building innovative, world-class companies from India. He has had an illustrious career as a global executive in Philips and Johnson & Johnson across multiple countries. He was the CEO of Philips Wearables based in Netherlands when he decided to return to India about a decade ago. On his return to India, he was the CEO of Latent View Analytics from 2014 to 2019, laying the foundation for one of the most successful IPOs in India. He is an alumnus of Harvard Business School, IMD International Switzerland, IIM Calcutta and IIT Madras. Over to you, sir.
If you don't mind, I'll stand here and speak. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much to Upasana and to Ramki for such a wonderful session, because it was fabulous just to hear them and learn so much about it. Luckily, I'm not going to them for funding, because I don't think I will get the funding from them, because I look at life in a very, very simple way. So the topic given to me is more sharing my journey with you on stepping up into the startup world. So whenever I leave, when I come for this meeting, my mother asked me, "நீ என்னப்பா போய் பேச போற? நீ என்ன பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க? எதுக்காக இப்ப பேச போற?" So I have 3 startups now. I thought I had 3 startups now, but after Ramki's speech, or after the first delivery, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of Cardiac Wellness Institute yesterday. So it's no longer a startup, it's gone. So I have 2 startups now, but we have an ongoing business, I guess, on that. So what I'm going to do is share with you a little bit about my journey, and so that in a sense it also makes it very relevant that this hype about startup is just like hype about anything else in the past or future, right? So finally, it's just a business. You can call it startup, you can call it what you want. So when I graduated from IIT Madras in the early 90s, I think in a class of 50, 46 went to the US, right? In our hostel, 50 of us were there. In the MEC thing, we were very close. 46 went to the US. About four of us decided that we'll stay back in India, right? We were called MBMs, Mera Bharat Mahans. That's what we were called, right? So no vision or anything. I mean, the reason I'm saying this is when you look back, when I read all these books about entrepreneurs and successful businessmen and all of that, it looks like they've thought it through the whole life. Right? So at least what I'm going to share with you is, I don't think we ever thought, I did not think through most of this, but the other guys are also, you guys have heard of Zoho company. So one of the other three guys is Shekhar Vembu, my classmate. So, hey, yeah, US lampo. That's what he said. Right? So he's sitting here, Zoho, everyone knows Zoho now. But that is, he didn't go stay back to build Zoho or anything. That was the thing. But 4 to 6 of my classmates are writing GRE. All of this, they went to the US. Then, since you're staying back, and by the time I figured I was not very good with engineering, or if some machine breaks down, I'll immediately call for help. Project Velasela, please come in. So I'm not fixing anything, and you cannot be an engineer if you don't even have interest to fix stuff, right? So, but I was very good at having people come and fix stuff, and people were saying, hey, Abdina management pala. So I went to IIM Calcutta directly after this. I spent a couple of years there. But it was without, both my parents are from, they're government servants. So my mother was a doctor, so she was with she was the Corporation of Chennai handling the population project, right? So, which was, if a baby is born in any village, anywhere, in the Gudusela irundhalum, multi-purpose health worker poi avangalukku ella vaccination potruvanga, right? So she was like, and every day she would see like 100, 200 patients free of cost, because this is Corporation of Chennai, and highly dedicated. My dad was a geologist, and he was in PWD. He was he retired as a director there, heading the water resources. So very dedicated people, hardworking, all of that stuff, but no business, right? We've really not done business. So finished IIM Cal, joined Johnson & Johnson. The first thing J&J did was send me to Orissa. I mean, they randomly called me and said, you need to do sales training, right? So, and then they said, you go to, where are you from? Two of us joined J&J, one guy from IIM Bangalore, I was from IIM Cal. They said, oh, there are 2 assignments open, one in Chennai and one in Orissa. So the Bangalore guy let him go to Orissa, and the Calcutta guy let him go to Chennai. That's me going to Chennai. Now, I ran down STD la irukku. I called up parents and said, next 6 months na veetla irukka poren. Then my boss, Panju guy, he found out, wait, where are you from? The other guy is a Parsi. He's like, Kusrubag, Bombay. Where are you from? Chennai. What? You're from Chennai and going to Chennai? You go to Orissa, you go to Chennai, right? So before I know it, I'm in Orissa. He only said 2 things to me when I left. He said, when you finish the sales stint, I expect 2 things. One, that you would have hardened up, you're in hostel life and college student-ish. After that, you can live anywhere in the world after the stint that you do. Second one, never in your life will you ever shout at a salesperson. Right, so once you experience what sales is, you never in your life. These are the 2 things I expect you to learn. So went to Orissa, and so I bought this book saying learn Oriya in 30 days, right? So Kali got a piece of baby soap, baby powder, stay free, carefree, band-aid, whatever we had to sell that and achieve the targets. The reason why I find the context is, I learned business the hard way and then I'm coming to startups. Now when I see startups, they've not done any of this. That's why we need people like Forge and Ramki to educate them on this. But how I started was, in the first 6 months, the first 3 months I was struggling with meeting my targets. Once I figured it out, I kind of was doing 200% and 250%. I was cracking it. Came back to the headquarters. I was a brand manager there. The biggest lesson you learn as a brand manager is that you get, at that time, advertising was a core, so you get 30 seconds to make a commercial. 20 to 30 seconds is all you get. So you need to be very, very, very clear what the consumer need is, How are you addressing the consumer's need better than anybody else in the world? And that has to be communicated in the 30 seconds, because when we put it on those programs that used to exist there, per 10 seconds it used to be like 1 lakh, 2 lakhs. Now I'm sure it's through the roof, but you need to know exactly what is the consumer looking for. Is your product delivering better than anybody else? And you should be able to communicate that, put that in and communicate it to them, and then and only then your product will sell. On top of this, you need to make sure your distribution is perfect and so on and so forth. So there's a bit of training that you get on every, and you continue to launch new products. And we used to have a very strong R&D team. We used to have a really strong manufacturing location. So at a very early age, I was getting exposure to all of this as I was launching products for J&J. When I was 28 years old, I was made the country head for Johnson & Johnson Vision Care, which is a new product launch basically. So which is fairly rare, because this is again serendipity, because we liberalized as India, we liberalized in 1991, right around that time. So I got into the workforce in 95. So I don't have experience. People worked in the 80s. If you ask them what is your experience, they'll wink and say, I know people in Delhi, right? So the American, J&J was an American company. They didn't like that. They said, we want somebody who will deal with the market economics. So we were the first people to look at market. So we built a business from scratch in India. I knew the customers. We were slowly building the customer base, but I knew the customers, I knew their families. I would attend the customers' weddings. I would attend any, anything that happens in the customers, I know it. If they need the product, I've had my team members, and I've also personally gone to the train station and to the airports and handed them products from them, right? So there's and we grew the business like crazy, and then I got promoted. I went as country head for Malaysia. This was 2003 to 2005, and what I learned there, big learning for me, was that I was the youngest member in the Asia Pacific leadership team, right? Everybody else who was in the Asia Pacific leadership team was either from a Harvard or a Wharton, and one of the, because this is an international company and it's a multinational. And they would be looking at me and saying, hey, you have business schools in India? Wow, that's great. You have business schools in India. And I'm like, hey, when I was in Bombay, in the newspaper, Taranda, oh, IIT, ibdi pantanga, IIM, ibdi, oh, this, that. So you really start believing maybe you're made of some extra material, you can build businesses better. Then you just leave the country and nobody cares about you, right? So if you add value on that month, that quarter, you are respected. If you don't add value, that's about it, right? And I think there is some merit in sometimes destroying some of the institutions we have, because what we are really looking for is outputs that needs to be generated. So I took a call saying, hey, by the time I had 10 years of work experience, 5 years as P&L leader, so I said, if I want to have a good career in an international company, then let me at least get myself and recognize international MBA, so that I'm part of the decision. I have nothing against people. So if you ask the four of you to make decisions on a business, and you went to school in, let's say, Tanjavur, then you would know the school in Tanjavur and you won't know the school in Rajasthan, right? Because you went there. Similarly, these guys went to school in US and Europe, and they don't go to school in India. They don't know about us. But if they are the ones making decisions about my career, I'm saying, hey, that's not going to go in my favor. And I'm fairly ambitious. If I'm doing a good job, let me do a good job. That was what it was. So I went and did another MBA in a school called IMD in Lausanne. That was it's a one-year program, and it was one of the highest ranked programs at that point in time. It transformed my life. The student, class of 90, 45 nationalities, right? So my classmates from all over the globe. If I go to a country right now, most likely there'll be somebody at the airport to pick me up, because they will be my classmate. Just like if I go to any city within India, one of my IIM classmates will definitely come and pick me up. All the IIT guys have run away there in the US. They'll pick me up in the US, but not here. So I spent some time, a year, that was transformative for me, because that was the first time I was reflecting, and it was a case study based, right? Like all the things that she was talking about and Ramki was talking about. We had these lectures day in and day out. You have to be there at 7:58. If you go at 8:01, you'll be thrown out of the class because the discipline was number one. And then every day we would go home only at 4 a.m. Right, by the time I had a daughter, my wife was with me in Switzerland. They had a good time in Switzerland. But we had to work really hard for a year. And at the end of it, I joined Philips in the Netherlands. And by that time, what I was looking for was I've done set up businesses from scratch for J&J in India and Malaysia. So I was fairly confident I can do that. But I've never looked at businesses from a global perspective. I've not looked at $1 billion business, or I've not really looked at. So I said, I don't have that exposure, and I need that. And also, the way we do business in Asia, in both India and in Malaysia for that matter, is no, when you go to the US or to other places, that red light means it's a red light. It's not a guideline or I can go. What happens is you will be fired instantaneously. If I see you not wearing a helmet, I will remove you from the job from Johnson & Johnson in India. You do this in the US, instantaneously you will lose your job. That's it, period. There's no, the discipline is discipline, right? If a meeting is at 8 o'clock, and if you're not there by 7:59, you might be the best person in the world. It does. Think of, if you understand cricket, then think of Greg Chappell having a conversation with Sourav Ganguly, right? Sourav Ganguly is the best batsman in the world. He has 5 people carrying his bat, bag, shoes, everything, right? Greg Chappell is used to, I don't care whether you're the captain or not, you got to run like crazy, and I need to see you do 5 runs before you touch the bat, right? So if you want, now if you see Virat Kohli, he's a fit guy, but our cricketers 15 years ago were not, because that was the time we were transitioning from a local thing into an international standard, right? So for me, the journey was fantastic because you learn from all these people. I said, when I go to Philips, the only thing I asked for was, this was 2007, I had 6 jobs. Philips was offering me something which was like, I want you to be a leader in the company. So I said, fine, let's get on board. I was with them for some time. I was head of strategy and business development, which means you are the right hand of the CEO. It was a few billion euro business. And so you do everything from running the business, innovation, investments in new technology, all those stuff, and you see the results of it. So I did that for a while, and then there was a business we had called Philips Wearables, which is one of the first wearables in the world. So I became the CEO of that, and then we cracked it because we tied up with Weight Watchers and we took it off really well. It was a startup within Philips, entrepreneur they call it. Now that's the name I learned later on. But anyway, so around 2012, I had no intentions of leaving India, but I already lived in 5 different countries, North America, Europe, Asia, and then I wanted to come back for personal reasons. I'm the only son, my parents are here. I said, okay, let's just move back, and we moved back to India. Is that a conversation that I should get involved in? No? Yes. No, that was for the two of you, because it's slightly disturbing for me when you continue to talk that way. Sorry. Is it okay? I mean, is everything okay? No, okay, because it's slightly disturbing when you continue to talk right in front of me that way, right? Yeah. Sorry. So when I came back, the reason I was coming back was for purely personal reason. There's nothing, I'm not interested in doing a startup, I'm saying, but there are a few things you learn, right? So when the first thing that I learned in the initial journey was in the 10 years with J&J, I started with a very low base, right? So my salary was very low. So however they double my salary every 6 months or something, every time I go there and take up a job, somebody was earning, whoever else was doing that job was doing it 3 times the salary of mine all the time, right? So when I joined Philips, I said, hey, I want to join at the headquarters and come to one of these countries. Like they also get punishment posting for going to Singapore, right? So I would say, hey, I want to go to Singapore and be give me some punishment allowance so that I'm struggling in emerging markets kind of stuff, right? But after a while, you realize my mentors are there. When I was talking to them, I was saying, hey, there was a head of Asia Pacific opened up, and they said, do you want to do it? And my mentor told me, hey, Gopi, you've already done India, you've already done Malaysia. If you go back to Asia, you'll be branded as Asia head, right? And then you're screwed, take up a global business. So that's how I went as a head of a global business. It was good fun, but I came back for personal reasons, as I said. When I moved back, I didn't have anything to do. I came back purely for, I want to be with family and so on. But I had also learned that the business that I built for Philips, when I took over the business, it was losing about 15 million euros per year, right? And then we made it profitable, and we had it to about 150. I could have sold the business for 150 million euros when I was leaving the company, right? So, but a large company cannot compensate you in value creation, right? They're going to compare you with any other VP or executive or CXO. You're the CEO of this company. So the large companies look at you as here's the salary band in which you operate, and this is what you're going to get, and so on. So I realized that in a very dedicated way, just like, excuse me, it is fairly disturbing. That blue shirt, and it's very disturbing for me when you're talking like that. Sorry. Not you. The girls in front of me. No, not you. No, these two girls are continuously talking, so it's disturbing for me, right? Sorry about it, but it's very disturbing for me to see you guys do that. Sorry, I lost my thought. I completely lost my thought. Anyone can let me know where I was? Yeah, salary band. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Yeah, in the salary bandwidth, that's what you are. But if you're creating a 150 million euro business, that's what my thinking was. If I'm doing it for this company, shouldn't I be getting compensated accordingly, right? Because the other guy, all they're doing is that small. They come at 9 o'clock, leave at 5 p.m. And you're driving. I mean, you should recognize that your mind is focused 24/7 on the job that you're doing, right? There is no nothing else, right? So you're driving the business like crazy. You're driving it like it's your own business. You're not looking at it as somebody else's business or anything. So when I came back, I was fairly clear that I'm going to, and I'm not too happy with the startup ecosystem in India, to be very fair. So there are a bunch of kids who want to make a lot of money in the short term, right? So that's not sustainable, right? So you have to really build world-class companies. You have to be addressing somebody's need better than anybody else in the world, right? So unless you do that, you don't have a right to be in business, right? You might as well shut shop and go away. So for you to get there, there are different stages, like she pointed out. So you get to a prototype, you get to a customer, you get to a business, you get to an enterprise. But at every stage, unless you're 24/7 on this and you have a fantastic team that's driving it, you have no reason to be in business, right? I'm not a great fan of encouraging people, giving them money and saying, do a startup, right? I would say, bang the guy 3 times and say, don't do the startup. And if they still want to do it, yes, that's the spirit, because your life is tough. I mean, one business is tough, startups is 10 times tougher, right? So you need to succeed, you need to have fire within you so much, you have to believe in some idea so much that if you don't have so much belief, don't do it, right? I mean, nothing cool about startups. I mean, the reason I'm saying this is because in the 90s, it was cool to work in a multinational. Nothing cool about working in it was, you're a CEO in Amsterdam of a large company. Wow, that's cool. Nothing cool about it, right? And so when I came back, I said I'm going to help 3 or 4 companies. And then I found that it's difficult to do 3 or 4 companies. I focused on one, latent view analytics. We had a couple of clients at that point in time. So 2014 to 2019, I was with them. We had about 45 to 50 customers when I left. 2019, I left, meaning I still own shares in the company, so I'm fully invested in the company. So then I got a successor to replace me in 2019, Rajan Sethuraman, who's still the CEO of the company. In 2021, we went IPO. And I think we asked for 600 crores from the market, and we got subscribed for 112,800 crores, right? So that's the kind of subscriptions we got. It still, I think, holds the record for the most oversubscribed stock in the history of Indian stock markets, because after that, market tanked. Nothing else. IPOs became not so cool, and it's coming back. So now I have a few companies. So the reason I'm saying some of this is you should not do anything because it's cool, right? It's nice. Startups are the in things to do. You should do something only if you are willing to die for it. Don't do it otherwise, right? If you say, wow, this is a phenomenal business, I don't mind spending the rest of my life on this, and I will die to make this happen, do it, right? It's nothing different from it's almost like a life partner, right? So if you're choosing your partner, then you're kind of saying, hey, how it works out is a different story altogether, but at least if you go and unless you're fully committed and 100% saying that this is what I want to do, I don't think you should get involved in it at all. I don't think startups are as cool today as multinationals were in the 90s. So there are trends coming in and out. But business is a business, whether you call it a startup, a venture, or anything. It's a common. There should be consumers buying from you. They should be willing to spend on you. And they should say, I will only buy from you and not from the other person because you made something which is very special for me. Right? That is all. Oh, no, it's fully common sense. But you guys need to deeply understand this. And that's why I'm saying I would find it challenging to get money from investors because I will not pivot. I will think through it before that, right? So if somebody comes to me and says, I'm going to pivot your business, hey, அதெல்லாம் நாங்க யோசனை பண்ணி தான் ஆரம்பிச்சிருக்கோம். உன் ஃபண்டிங்ல எனக்கு வேணாம், right? I will make this work. So, all the people that I know built fantastic businesses. When I say fantastic businesses, I'm looking at hundreds of millions of dollars. So, and it's important to know that because our Sonnar, we have become the third largest economy in the world now. But remember, 3.7 we'll get to $5 trillion. China is at $17 trillion. US is at $27 trillion, right? Number 3, அவங்க 27, 9 times, 10 times bigger, right? That is the scale. அவங்கிட்ட போய் நான் பண்றேன் பாரு என்ன மாதிரி நீ பண்ணு. There's a lot we have to learn, right? And if we don't have the discipline to learn this and don't work hard day in and day out, our businesses will fail. என்னதான் market போனாலும் going up, this is up, that is up. All that hype don't believe in. Your startup is your baby, right? Just because all children are studying well doesn't mean your children will study well. You have to work hard, you have to put it together and take it forward. So that's so for me, the hype on startups, all of those things are, I'm not too excited about it. Most parts I have 3 startups, so people ask me to speak, and like my mom asks, I don't know, but the common sense, what you believe in, who's your customer, what is your technology, and do you understand yourself, right? 99% of it is, do you have the strength to see this through? Are you doing the right things to build the strength to see this through? You're going to have 10 problems that you've not even heard of. Can you handle it? Can you move forward? Do you have the strength to do this? Yes, go ahead and do it. Do you believe in that? And technology, have people surround smarter. When you recruit people smarter than you. I don't know. Right, so because you want a team which is like really smart. So with that, it's a fairly challenging one because I saw the title saying Step Up to Startups. And I was very excited because all my life I've been stepping up to come to a startup. So I have stepped up my whole life to come to a startup. I still meet people who don't understand why I quit this job or why I left this, like that. But now I think everyone likes startups. Everyone thinks you're a visionary or anything. No, people can say whatever they want. At least the 3-4 people who stayed back in India from my batch, they're all doing very well because they've been here for a long time. They're smart enough. They understand opportunities and look at it, and they're doing exceptionally well here. And I think if you guys focus on what you want to do and do not expect anything before 2030. 2030 munadi, other than hard work, sweat, toil, blood, tears, those are the things you should look till 2030. 2030 should be your first milestone of, can I take something out of it? If you have that mindset, whether you get funded, don't get funded, you will succeed, right? You know, see, it's your inner strength, and you say, then my next milestone is 2030. I'm not going to doubt anything. I'll take feedback, continuously take feedback from everyone, improve everything, fine-tune everything. But I will hold my belief strong that this will succeed and go on and on and on. And that's the only way to succeed in this world. Because if you keep, அவன் ஒரு பேப்பர் எடுத்துட்டான் 20 பேர் பேப்பர் எடுப்பாங்க. So அதெல்லாம் won't work. You have to do what you know best. And you have to do it really well. And you have to do it to such a thing that till the world turns around, so for the first 7 years, they'll be looking at you, madman, 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 mad lady, mad person. At the end of, it succeeds, you're now visionary, pa. So this is the world. So most of the entrepreneurs who have succeeded, they didn't have a good life or anything. They just got beaten up by the banks, didn't give them any money. Nobody funded them. அவங்களாம் தான் சக்ஸஸ்ஃபுல்லாக இருக்காங்க. அப்புறமா என்ன வேணால் சொல்லலாம் நம்ம. But thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate that you gave me the opportunity to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I request KSR sir and RR sir to honor our esteemed guest with a memento and a hamper. Now, I request Raghunath Ravi sir to enlighten us with the importance of governance and compliance.
Mr. Raghunath Ravi holds a bachelor's degree in commerce and is a fellow member of the ICSI. He is a practicing company secretary for a decade now and is associated, and he is a partner, branch head Chennai at KSR & Co. Company Secretaries LLP. He has rich experience in handling corporate law matters, including mergers, amalgamation, and restructuring of companies, foreign technical collaboration agreements, negotiation, and finalization of terms of investment by PE investors, foreign and domestic investors, share subscription agreement, and many more. He has authored around 40 articles on corporate law published over the years in the Hindu Business Line and Taxman publication. He is also an active member at LinkedIn and always shares his comments on various corporate related matters. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. After the interesting talks by the eminent speakers here, this will be like a moral instruction class for school students. So you have to bear with me, yeah, because I'm going to focus briefly on the need for the governance and compliance requirements, which in my view, I would say, it's oxygen for the continued existence of the companies and the tonic for the growth of any organization. So let me not have special provisions on the startups, but as a general rule, the need for governance and compliance requirements. Because governance is the ethical conduct of the business with the maximization of the wealth of all the stakeholders, be it lenders or shareholders or employees. And compliance deals with ensuring that all the activities of any business organization is all within the permitted norms under various legislation. So we can take the example of two cases where the governance and compliance requirements has taken the entity to great heights, and the other extreme one where because of the lack of this, it has been facing a lot of issues. On the negative one, let me not specify the name, but the best one, Zomato, for example, it was started in 2010. and they started the delivery business in 2015. And 2020, it got expanded to 500 cities. And 2021, they made the rights issue at a price of, I think, 79 per share. But the good thing about that is, in addition to the long years it took, it had also, as per the prospectus details available, on the day the prospectus was filed, there were 75 investors, which means the management could, which started as a startup, could get along with the investors with confidence from every stakeholder without any issues, and their risk factors did not carry anything other than those connected with the business one. This is a very good sign, the manner in which the business is run. The second one is the extreme one, where till last year it is reported that the net worth of the founder was 17,000 crores, and today it's nil, absolutely zero. So that is because of a lot of issues, not only with compliance requirements, but also with the investors. So there is complete distrust, mistrust among the investors, making him run to all forums of legal issues. That is one example. And second thing is, unless the product meets any failure, if the company, if the business entity is run properly, then you can always find some people to be replaced with the existing one. For example, we had a case where the business was very good, but the manner in which it was run, nobody touched that. But somehow the acquirer wanted the business to be acquired. Therefore, the suggestion was that the business would be sold to a new company promoted by that company, but from day one, the new acquirer will take part in equity participation and management. But that option may not be available in startup because the rules do not permit when some business is transferred. So, one. Second thing is, recently we did a due diligence where the product was very good. But because of the issues in the procedures having not been met in the issue of further shares, there was no title to the shares. With the result, a proposal was given up. It is still run, but it may not fetch the price that they expected. And this is also a lesson for the acquirers to be careful about the manner in which the compliance requirements are followed by the target entities. The failure of the product, barring that, if there are any other issues in raising finance or management issues, then you can always find a new person to be brought in, provided there are no issues with the compliance level, and people may have a feeling that compliance is additional cost. But if from day one seriousness is shown in compliance, be it labor laws, revenue laws, corporate laws, whatever are the applicable regulations, then it should not be a burden at all. The problem is when you not to follow the guidelines or the compliance, then the cumulative effect would be to kill the organization that we should avoid, right? So with these few words, let me complete. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request Darshana ma'am to present a bouquet and a hamper to RR sir as token of love. Next, we have Mr. Ramana Kumar to speak about the legal aspects of business requirements for startups.
B. Ramana Kumar sir is a BCom graduate and a Master in Commerce. He is a chartered accountant and a lawyer enrolled at the Madras High Court and is a registered insolvency professional. He is the founder of OVO Pax Legal, a corporate law firm. He was earlier practicing in the name and style of MS Ramana Associates Chartered Accountancy. He was the Special Counsel for Income Tax till June 2021 for International Tax and Transfer Pricing for South India, and is presently the Senior Standing Counsel for Central Government of Direct and Indirect Taxes at the Madras High Court, and representing the Income Tax Department in NCLT and NCLAT. He is a part-time professor of law in IIT Madras. He has co-authored a book on transfer pricing along with the legendary Sri S. Rajaratnam titled Rajaratnam's Transfer Pricing in International and Domestic Transactions, published by the Company Law Institute of India. He is a well-known TV debate panelist on various subjects including budget, finance, parliamentary affairs, constitution, economy, finance, and many more. To add on, he is also an active photographer and has won many national and international prizes from over 50 countries and regularly holds exhibitions across. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm conscious of the fact that I stand between you and the snack. Yeah. I'm conscious of the fact that I stand between you all and the snack, but I thought that this is equally important. The legal aspects of business for startups, where I'm involved in both IIT Madras and IIT Jodhpur with the management students who are all future business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs. And often I have a question as to what all should a startup person know. He may be excellent in coding, he's excellent in identifying funds, but what all the legal aspects he must know with respect to running the business. I don't expect him to know all the nuances of, the business. In fact, when I was in KPMG, we made a study as to how many returns a small enterprise will file in a year. That was before the GST regime. 340 returns were the amount of returns which an enterprise should file every year. That includes the excise, Shop and Establishment Act, income tax, TDS, etc., all those, sales tax, all those returns, it came up to about 300. Every return had a penalty clause if it was not filed on time. Each and every return. I give this example. If our children are in class 11 or class 12, all the subject teachers will say they have to read the subject for 4 hours. Then that would ultimately happen that the child should read for 48 hours a day in order to complete everything. It's not possible. So similarly, all the returns which had to be filed properly. If it was not filed, you have separate penalties. And that would bleed the company, that would lead to issues, that would lead to litigation, and during your IPO, all these will come as the existing litigations available. GST return not filed for 5 years, you have a penalty. But should a startup business owner know everything? Again, if he knows everything, already he has to be 24/7 breathing the business. Apart from that, you have to know the compliance. Apart from that, you'll have to do everything. But there is no motivation for being a business owner at all. Upasana ma'am was telling about Red Bus. Following the success of Red Bus, one enterprising fellow, he made one app by which he was able to proceed the IRCTC platform, go into the platform, and he could get a reserved ticket every time. And he thought he will be as successful as Bus. Ultimately, it so happened that he was behind the bars with a few days of the launch. Excellent revenue model, excellent platform, everything is set, and revenues also started to come in, but our man was behind bars. Why? As per the Indian Railways Act, only the government which can sell tickets You cannot sell tickets yourself. It is like black marketing. So what he did was, he went into a IRCTC site, and from IRCTC site he was able to access all the tickets which were cancelled in the last minute through an algorithm, and he was able to allot the tickets. So a small thing that he has not read the Indian Railways Act led him to the downfall. So at this background, I will just start my presentation, be very quick. Which one? Heard? Yeah, the herd is as fast as the slowest animal, right? Okay. It's a very famous African proverb, and I love this statement. The herd is as fast as the slowest animal. You will have the best of coders, you will have the best of finances, you will have the best of everybody, you will have a posh office, everything you will fund from at the parents' money. You will start having a beautiful office, or a part of your parents' office would be yours. Nice funds for the social media blasting. All the influencers will be part of your team. But yaar accounts maintain mandra? There is one person who will do part-time, sir. He is a retired person. He will come once a week and he will file the returns, sir. Excellent. Okay. And what happens to the agreements and what happens to the contracts you enter into especially the rental agreements? That we see ourselves. Who will see? I have an assistant manager who is an MCOM graduate. He will see. And I also have one BA, MA literature person who is my secretary. She will also read all the agreements and we will finalize the agreements. Last week, one client came to me. In the Forum Mall, they opened one shop. That shop was to vend chaya. Agreement was there. He showed the agreement. Sir, agreement la oru class romba problem irukku sir. Enna paakano. The agreement says you have to pay 16% of your monthly sales turnover as rent, apart from your standard square feet charges, maintenance charges, electricity charges, and something called ad hoc charges and all, whatever it is, all that you have to pay this. Sir, I was told it will be only 120 rupees a square feet. Now they are asking all that. Okay, where did you see it? Did you finalize the agreement before you entered into the shop? No, sir, everything is over. The launch was yesterday. Sir, the launch is going to happen very soon. Now I'm being visited with an agreement who say that all these things have to be paid. What to do? You have to suffer. One of the bane of the Indian businessman is that he thinks he knows law. He thinks he knows law. And asking for a consultation, it will be only with friend, father-in-law, friend's friend. Sir, I'm referred by somebody, sir, I want to have a meeting. He'll come and meet. He'll have full discussion. I will say, what is the way forward? He will say, thank you very much, sir. He'll leave. The fee aspect and the commercial aspect is not even thought of by the businessman. He thinks it is his right to walk into any professional's office and ask for any kind of advice. That is one of the main reasons which I have seen is the reason for which the businesses fail in India. The startup, as rightly said, it is an unknown territory. You don't know what lies ahead. Let me take the example of Red Bus. The Red Bus, that person had to walk into each of the corporation's office, meet the marketing manager, meet the marketing fellow, convince him to come into his platform, for which he has to pay some entertainment expenses, some business promotion expenses, other expenses, etc., etc., and only has to do, all of that has to be accounted, right? How will you account it? Most of the startups, what they do, they end up spending more than they should and end up spending more than they can account. I have seen a few of my clients whose wives' Mangal Sutra has also gone into sale. எங்கேயுமே account பண்ண முடியல. So one has to go, if you are into an unknown territory, please take advice. How do you take advice? You have to take advice from upasanas of the world. You have to take advice from the company secretaries of the world, the advocates of the world. Sir, I cannot afford this money, sir, because I'm going to start up. No, so much of pressure. Ultimately, the pressure will come only towards legal expense or to a professional's fee. I wouldn't say only even legal expense, a professional's fee. Unless you have professional help, my friends, nothing will really happen in this place. So, and first you are in an unstone, you must know the rules of the game. If you are in the hospitality industry, you must know the rules of the games with respect to the hospitality industry, the food safety, the pollution, etc., etc. If you are in coding, you don't need to do laws about other things. If you are in pharma, you have to know much more things. For example, this 1mg and all the startups would give medicines to you. You please see the medicines. It will be of the latest batch. Even if they send one strip of medicine which is outdated and you make a complaint, that whole company will be, zapped. So you know to have the rules of the games and uncompromising. The laws are uncompromising. Sir, I did not know I have to file income tax returns as well as TDS returns. One startup came to me. Sir, every month we file TDS returns, sir, but I did not know we have to file an annual return for TDS. Ignorance of law is not an excuse. Ignorance of law is not an excuse. It's a big bad world. We are all waiting here to pounce upon you. And teamwork. As I said, having a part-time accountant to have your accounts, having a company secretary who is your relative to manage your compliances with respect to Companies Act, LLP, will not work. You need to have professional advice. So, what an entrepreneur should know about law? I am trying to frighten everybody. Yes, I myself am frightened in this. I am not trying to say that you must know everything. You must know where to look for. You must know what to look for. You must be able to identify a problem. If you are entering into a contract without signing it, you must understand that there is a problem there. If you are entering into a transaction with another country, you must understand that the jurisdiction of that country might have some prohibition with respect to your goods. For example, you cannot export certain items to the Middle East, assuming you have an agreement with Dubai to do some phone transfer over WhatsApp. There are some restrictions in that country. You must need to understand, you must know what are those respective restrictions which you have. You need to do a lot of research. Being an entrepreneur, business owner, as rightly said by Gopi sir, is not a joke. It is a 24/7. It's like telling, and the Sachin Tendulkar, varan tap tippu adigaran century podran. But for that century, that man gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, whether it is Diwali, Ramzan, New Year, whether it's not well, whether his father was in the hospital, 4 o'clock he goes for practice. That amount of hard work is always there. We ultimately see only the successes. Even the failures have to be seen, and we need to learn from the failures. Idhula irukka? Eagle's eye view. So he must have the eagle's eye view of the whole business. I don't know accounts. I'm very allergic towards accounts. Only my finance team will take care. I'm sure there will be a drain there. There will be a small hole by which all the money will be siphoned out. One example, when I was a forensic auditor, at some point in time, an accountant used to bring the electricity check to the managing director for signing. Without seeing the electricity bills, he used to sign the electricity check because the name was written to the electricity department, so and so, so and so. And he said, why there is so much of electricity consumption in this factory? He said, no sir, we have this, we have that, we have put halogen lights, this, that, all those cock and bull stories were given. Suddenly one day that accountant who used to make the payment for the electricity bill, he passed away. And they brought in the electricity bills. They saw that the electricity bill was only 1/5 of the amount which was being paid. For every 100 rupees, they had to pay only 5 rupees, or only 20 rupees had to be paid, but they were paying 100 rupees for the last 15, 20 years. Then on investigation, they found that accountant entered into agreements with all the neighbors, collected all their electricity bills, cash from them, pocketed the cash, took the signature from the MD for the electricity bill, and he was making the payment. Is this money recoverable? Absolutely not recoverable. Is it a foolproof fraud? Is it a foolproof fraud or not? No. The MD is a fool. MD should have at least once in his lifetime, if he has seen the electricity card and then made the signature, he would not have. Accounts, I'm only coder. I only do coding. I can only do software algorithms. No. You have to come down. Waste your madichu gatti sethala iranginada vara mudiyum. I am very clear about that. So the eagle's eye view on everything has to be there. HR department, finance department, legal. You must know little bit of everything in the complete process. So the mercantile law generally in India, for the startups. I'll just take 5 more minutes. I think a few things have been covered earlier also. Mercantile law are basically from the English law, because we still have the 1872 Contracts Act even now applicable. A lot of issues have evolved from the English law, obviously. And of course, we have the Indian statutes also. A lot of Indian statutes are there by which it comes in. For example, the electricity law, the RBI Act, the FEMA, Foreign Management Regulation Act, all those things have all come about. And the judicial decisions. Now, any business owner, before entering into any transaction, just Google and see, you will get at least 60% answers for all your issues. At least you will know where to find, how to find, whom to see. And of course, the last is the customs and usage. The way in India, it's a very diverse country. You have certain issues by which customs and usage will be able to manage a number of things. So to cut the long story short, there are about 40 to 50 enactments which have to be adhered by a professional, whether it is a startup, whether it is Reliance or whether it is Mannar and Company. You have to follow certain laws and certain statutes which are common for everybody. Like Indian Contracts Act are there, Sale of Goods Act. If you are a company, the Companies Act, the LLP Act, the SEBI, if you go into IPOs and all. And now the ecosystem is such that everything is captured in some place or the other. My mother used to say, why are you having this kara in your shirt, my white shirt? No? It must be a coffee which I had about 3 weeks back. But whatever it is, that stain will be there. Similarly, now the ecosystem will capture every non-compliance, every wrongdoing, and it will store it somewhere. And it will start putting it out at the wrong person for the right reason, or the right person for the wrong reason. So as far as possible, we should try to avoid or be compliant with it. So being an entrepreneur in India is not a joke. It's not a joke. It is not bed of roses. It is a bed of thorns. You have to endure it unless you have that passion, unless you have that drive, unless you have that, dedication and willing to take risks. Now the latest one is that the sexual harassment for women at workplace. Any day it can burst up. Any day it can burst up by anything. No fault of the business owner. No fault of anybody. Due to some reason it has. So you need to have a, CCTV camera. Where all will you have a CCTV camera where you have women and men working together? These issues are all huge issues which will come about. And how the most, another interesting angle is the Money Laundering Act. Suddenly from Dubai you will get a phone call, you say, I am willing to give you 5 crores of rupees. Immediately you come here and you collect the money. You will go there, you will get a check or you will get a draft, you will have to make a payment. Yes. One of my clients, he lost money because they said, you have to pay the commission up front. Somebody was showing a money of 800 crores. And he said, you have to pay commission upfront, sir. You have to pay 8.5 crores upfront. And I will immediately release the amount. And that man, he got that 8.5 crores to him. He gave it. He said, Inge irunga varan. Over. He did not have the common sense to say that you deduct that 8.5 crores and you send me the 792 crores or 791 crores. Money has to come. Yark is all. So as startups trying to do all this will actually end up in problems, much more problems than the IRCTC individual which you said. So I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from being a business owner or a startup, but you have to exercise so much more caution, and also the risks have to be calibrated, the risks have to be measured, and you have to take proper risks and accordingly go forward. And it is here that you need the help of professionals and people who are in the business. So you don't have to pay fees always. For many of my startup clients, I don't charge fee. I only ask them to accumulate that and issue shares when you grow up. Yes, for many of my startup clients, I say, I don't want any, no sir, we'll pay you something, sir, 20,000, 30. You allot me shares. At that point in time, I will come and ask you. That's a small service which we can do to the country and to the young entrepreneurs. Wish you all the best. As Ramki rightly said, India is the place now from across the world. Whatever you do, whatever business you do, you will get money. Provided you put your heart and soul into it. Like Rajinikanth, one of his dialogue, I can eat English, I can talk English, I can walk English. Like that, you must breathe. You must breathe your business, you must breathe your ambition, you must breathe your startup, you must walk it, you must think it always 24/7. If that is there, India is a lovely place, and all these hurdles which we have said as impediments will all evaporate like the morning dew. Once the sun actually hits the leaf or something like that. Okay. Thanks a lot for a very patient hearing. Thanks a lot, doctor, for a lovely opportunity. I was able to speak from another angle, so I'm also very happy about it.
Thank you, sir. I request KSR sir and RR sir to present the memento and hamper to Ramana Kumar sir. Dear audience, the stage is open for Q&A session. Any queries?
Question to Mr. Ramana Kumar. Earlier you said we need to follow around 340 acts. Has it come down now since the central government is encouraging startups?
Yeah, with the GST introduction, your excise, sales tax, all those things has come down, no? About 40-50 returns have reduced.
Okay, so it's around 300 now. Okay.
Depends upon the business you are in.
Okay, got it.
If you are in a hospitality industry, you'll have to do that much more because of the food safety, etc., etc. If you are having a shop and establishment, to that extent.
Okay.
It keeps varying, but it has reduced substantially, and everything is online now. Earlier, it has to be physically filed, but now everything is online. And to say that I forgot, my accountant was sick, and there was unemployment. All the examples are life examples, sir. I'm not cocking up any example. All the examples they gave are live examples which I have seen. My accountant has actually had left the job, so because of which the user ID password is not with me, so I was not able to file the return. Okay, no problem. Huh? All those stories, yes, all those stories will not work. As business owner, you must take responsibility for what you have done. உங்களோட அக்கௌண்டன்ட் இருக்கானோ இல்லையோ, உங்களுடைய பார்ட் டைம் அக்கௌண்ட்ஸ் பர்சன் ஃபைல் பண்றாரோ இல்லையோ, ultimately the responsibility is yours, and the fine you will be paying from your pocket.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Good evening, sir. My name is T.S. Karthik. There's a dialogue called मेरे पास गाड़ी है, बंगला है, building है, property है, bank balance है. क्या है तुम्हारे पास? Now the current generation says मेरे पास startup है. So the previous speaker also said, first speaker, he also said startup is not for everybody. You should. So your thoughts on that? Who are the people who should not get into startups?
Drop it. So there's no harm in trying, because it's difficult to say who should not do it. But if you're not enjoying it, and if the accountant, so if you're like he pointed out, you should be able to do 10 things at the same time. So you should learn finance, you should learn HR, you should learn the coding, you should know everything for you to succeed. And you will have experts, so you don't need to know. You should have the eagle's eye, eagle's view of it and looking at it. But not everyone's cut out for this, right? So like I've seen surgeons who are very good at surgery, but are hopeless at running a hospital, right? On the understanding of ourselves, we have to figure out, we'll have to figure it out for ourselves, what we like, what we don't like, how much we can do, what we can do, and then that. But it takes time, so you won't know in the beginning. At some point you will figure it out, but you have to find your own answers for this. But like we said, it's a great place. You can start business, you can make money. But the first time you have a case, you shouldn't get worried. Gene, there's an engineer gene, there's a doctor gene, there's a lawyer gene, if there are these genes, then there's also an entrepreneur gene.
Let me tell one thing which is motivating and, at least one positive thing from my side is that India has got the largest per capita of entrepreneurs in the world. Right from the flower seller in front of your small temple to your Ambanis and Adanis of the world. India is full of entrepreneurs. Go to any marketplace, you'll find entrepreneurs. Everybody need not be a startup. Everybody need not have a venture capital. Everybody need not have a seed capital. But whatever they do, they do. Only in India, sir, a flower seller, she will take 500 rupees kanduvadi. She has to pay 100 rupees interest. Morning she will get 400 rupees. Evening she has to pay 500 rupees to that man who comes every day. No collateral, no guarantee, nothing. With that 400 rupees, she comes to the market, flower bazaar here. She buys flower here, eats for 50 rupees. By the time she returns back to her place, either in a train or a bus, she will plate she will go there, sell it for 700 rupees, pay that 500 rupees, give 140 rupees to her husband for his evening drink, and with the balance 70 rupees. No, really, real, sir. It is the women who fund their husbands for their evening drink. Otherwise, the whole house will be a ruckus. And with the balance 70 rupees, she eats. Next day again, the same story starts. Ungaloda IRR, economics, will go for a toss. What is the cost of capital? 25% per day. Imagine the cost of capital. But it keeps running day after day. Enterprise after enterprise, business after business, city after city, town after town. That is the Indian resilience.
Let me also counter that slightly by saying, have you guys heard of Tesla, Apple, Google? What are the Indian companies that these people might have heard of? Think about that, right? So people in the US, Europe, what are the Indian companies that they have heard of? And yeah, that's a question for us to think about.
Hi everyone, myself Anthony. So first of all, I'd like to appreciate all of you for a wonderful session. So it was very insightful to hear about entrepreneurship. So my question is, when it comes to ease of doing business, so where does India stand as of today when compared to the other countries? And is it possible to give an illustration or an example? Where does India stand as of now in terms of ease of doing business? Let's say a new entrepreneur, a youngster is starting a business. So how is it in India, the ease of doing business, how it stands good?
Then we have ease of driving and ease of doing business. What we have here is so complex, only an Indian person can deal with it. I mean, we can sugarcoat it and say it's improved and all of that, but if you have an international guy come here and if he even tries to understand what all we have, it'll just like driving. Namakku signal irukku, avanga signal irukku, namakku left na. We keep changing lanes. So there is a discipline and things which we are comfortable with. We can't just blame government and other authorities. We like doing it in a particular way. But we ourselves behave very differently when we are in other countries, right? Some of these are food for thought. Excellent question you asked. Reality is we have improved a lot compared to the last 5 years or 10 years. The acid test is, can an international person come here and easily do business? Can I go to the US and start a company? 24 hours I can start it. Can an American come here and start a company? Good luck to that person.
Any more questions from the...
My question is, AI plays a major role in startups.
AI too plays a role.
Because in engineering and coding, that's also AI plays a major role. AI can do the 40 members work in a just half an hour or sometimes. That's my question. It can play a major role in startups.
I will repeat the answer. AI too can play a role.
Okay, sir.
AI is only a tool. Years back, they said the whole the world of accounting will change. Nothing has changed. It is only a tool. Earlier, I was driving an Ambassador. Now I am driving a Mercedes. That's all. The way you use it, even for computers, it is garbage in, garbage out. The way you use the IA is more important. 40 people's work will do, but you have to codify those 40 people's work, right? Maybe we can improve some spelling mistakes as of now. From a law point, I'm just trying to say. From a lawyer point of view, I'm just trying to say. AI now is very useful in rectifying the spelling mistakes, my grammar, is, was, this, there, what, which, and all, it is able to change. But with respect, if I give a names, Sendamil, it goes into ZQRST and all. So, what we put in only comes out. And trying to say that with AI, you will become Zuckerberg within a span of 15 days is pure hallucination.
My name is Surya. So I have a practical scenario question to ask for Ramana sir. So some companies have pre-incorporation expenses. So I incorporate a company. I have pre-incorporation expenses. I also appoint a part-time accountant. And that part-time accountant failed to mention that in my accounts. So as per Income Tax Act, you can mention that for 5 years. But my accountant failed to mention that in first 5 years. So is there any remedy that I can mention that in after 5 years?
Where should I send my invoice? That is what I said. Ignorance of law is no excuse. Okay. Your accountant failed to mention. If you had professional help, this would not happen. Nowadays, I find a very interesting trend, sir, especially in filing the MCA forms. They are filing it themselves. Huge problem. Even though a company secretary has to sign it, has to attest it, they get somebody somewhere, some brother, sister, friend, father-in-law, he will come and upload the form. You have to take professional. This cannot be done. Nothing can be done now. From what you said, and pre-incorporation expenses is those pre-incorporation expenses should have been identified in the first year, and you should carry forward for the next 5 years. After 5 years, if you say you want to do that, huge problems will come.
Hope your doubts were clarified. The end of today's event. So now I request Ravichandran sir to present the closing remarks.
Dr. K.S. Ravichandran, M.Com, FCS, LLB, PhD, is the managing partner of KSR & Co. Company Secretaries, LLP. He is a core practitioner in corporate law and has more than 25 years of practical experience. He is a much sought-after counsel for cases before the NCLT and NCLAT under the Company Law and Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. He holds
I have to say millions of thanks to each and everyone here, starting from the Mr. Ramki, who was advising that a lot of money is around. It is only whether your institution or entity is fit enough to be getting the money that you may need. And in the journey, we have got excellent thoughts about the hard work that goes into a person like our friend here, Mr. Koteeswaran. And we had the legal aspects, but connected to the incubators and accelerators, we had Ms. Upasana explaining the entire ecosystem in a beautiful 20-25 minutes. All that I would like to say is, like my mother used to say, that at home she may be doing a wonderful everyday food for 3, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 10 people. But scalability, she may not be the fit person. She won't be able to do it. That's something which is different. In startup, you don't need new technology. Remember this. You don't need new market. You don't need new customers. You need all that is new methodologies, new ways of doing things, innovations. Scalability and innovation put together, you will be able to achieve your own IPR, the intellectual property rights. Think about it. What is the IPR element in your idea? Very important for you to think about it. Today, for example, in the climate action program, we have a huge market in front of us for startups to do it, for technology to do it. Huge market is there. Everybody is now today going into the era of reduction. Reduction means what? We are talking about reduction of consumption. And we are being advised to think about reclaiming. Reclaiming means what? We are trying to see recycling opportunities, reusing opportunities, recovering opportunities, and only end of it, safe disposal opportunities. So in a reduction environment, recovery environment, reclaiming environment, we are supposed to find a market there. That is going to be something different. So therefore, the task will be definitely challenging. Normally, when we talk of burnout period, remember the burnout period is always less than what you have programmed. For example, today I read about hydrogen, green hydrogen opportunity. Avendus report says $125 billion. Therefore, opportunities are huge. All that I would like to say is just 5 mantras. To tap this opportunity with an innovation and technology, you will be able to succeed with an IPR in your idea, provided you follow. These 5 mantras is what I would like to say. Number 1, build your systems and processes. Do not compromise on that. Build a strong balance sheet. Build a strong governance framework. Reduce the gap between what you represent and what is actual. Because you know the actual, no? Reduce that gap. Integrity and reliability, trust can be built only if this is done. So therefore, build strong systems and processes, strong balance sheet, strong governance, remove this gap or reduce this gap between the representation that you make and what is actually there. If this is done, you will be able to. The 5th one is very important, that remember, for yesterday's solutions will be probably today's problems. Therefore, identify newer solutions. And during the entire process, I thought I'll wind up with saying from Tirukkural, which I can never avoid. Seidakka alla, sayakadum. Seidakka alla sayakadum means whatever is not supposed to be done, and if you do it, you had it. And already somebody has advised you, 10 years ke baad, we have not seen many of the startups. Seidakka alla sayakadum. whatever you should not do, like your misgovernance, misfeasance, and whatever miss is there, malicious things are there, don't do that. There is another thing that Thiruvalluvar says in Circle 466, that செய்க செய்யாமையானும் கெடும். என்ன செய்யணுமோ அதை செய்யாம விட்டாலும் போச்சு. Remember this during your journey, compliances, governance. You can take the second part of Thirukural. Whatever you should not do, take the first part of Thirukural, and there you are going to succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I request Malati to present a bouquet and hamper to KSR sir as a token of our sincere thanks to the coordinators of the event, Ms. Malati, Mr. Elilarasan, and Mrs. Lakshmi for their efforts in organizing the event. One important announcement with regards to the feedback form. We have inserted a feedback form in the folder given, kindly requesting you all to fill it and hand it over at the exit. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our event partner, Siki, our event management team, G Productions, our digital marketing partner, DK Digital, our caterers, Kelly Caterers, live streaming and photography partners, Mr. Vijay Raghavan and team, and all our attendees present here, and also those joined virtually for being a wonderful audience. All your presence has made this event a grand success. Looking forward to more such events in near future. We at KSR & Co are here to help you and assist you with queries, clarifications, and professional services throughout your start journey. Feel free to reach out to us at the details given in handbook. At this juncture, I would like to leave you all contemplating on the inspiring words of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Dream, dream, dream. Dream transform in thoughts, and thoughts result in action. I hope this event has
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाए तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you all. We can now proceed for high tea. Once again, thank you for being a wonderful audience. Happy learning, happy startup, grow business, grow relationships. Thank you all.